Picture this. You decide to sell your cozy little home. You're dreaming of the profit, maybe moving closer to the ocean. Then you log on to Zillow, and you see that your house is apparently located in the epicenter of a biblical flood. And this is despite the fact that the nearest water is a mile away. Welcome to the brave new world of climate disaster scores that are breaking sales and ruining plans. Part 1. The great and terrible algorithm. Until recently, things were simple. You want to sell a house, you list it. But then a company called First Street came along. These guys decided that photos weren't enough. So they started slapping climate disaster scores on listings. They rate everything: wildfire, flood, wind, heat, and even bad air quality. And if it were just an infographic, that would be fine. The problem is that millions of sellers and buyers are now held hostage by these numbers. Zillow and other giants happily jumped on the bandwagon. If you have a high-risk score, congratulations, your house just got a black mark. An analysis showed that homes with bad ratings are less likely to sell and usually go for less than the asking price. They actually call it a disaster discount. Sounds like a great supermarket promotion, except you're losing tens of thousands of dollars. Part 2. The mistake that costs a sale. Bob's case. Let's look at some examples. Meet a guy we'll call Bob. He owns a vacation condo in the mountains of New Hampshire. It's a gorgeous spot, and Bob thought he'd sell it in a heartbeat. In August, the listing goes live and boom, like a bolt of lightning. Zillow slaps a 9 out of 10 flood risk score on it. Extreme risk. Bob is in shock. His home sits about 60 feet above the nearest river. It turns out the First Street algorithm simply messed up the address and pulled data from a different report. Bob managed to get a correction. The company said, "Oops, sorry, that was a data provider error." They lowered the rating to 7 out of 10. Bob called it an improvement, but still ridiculous. The result? The house is hanging like dead weight at $849,000, and buyers have scattered. Part 3. Battle of the psychics. Models. The funniest, or saddest, part is that these scientific models predict the future with wildly different conclusions. Let's take Bob's case again. First Street screams, "We're doomed, the risk is severe." Another company, HazardHub, says, "Relax, the risk is extremely low." A third firm, Climate Check, shrugs its shoulders. It's about a 58 out of 100. It's like going to 3 doctors. One says you're dying, the second says you're healthy as a horse, and the third just hands you a vitamin. Who is the buyer going to believe? Naturally, the scariest forecast. Buyers are now using these numbers to negotiate lower prices. Part 4. Not our fault, it's the climate. So, what do the creators of these ratings say? They claim government maps are outdated and don't account for climate change. They say their models look 30 years into the future, matching the length of a standard mortgage. The CEO of the modeling company isn't sweating it. He says, "We stand by our data." He adds that they review complaints, but it's rare that a fix is actually required. Yeah, go tell that to the Potter family in North Carolina. They have a cottage that has never flooded, but the algorithm slapped them with a severe risk because of rainfall. Buyers show up, fall in love with the house, see the score, and run. And the family doesn't have a spare $25,000 for a lawyer to fight IT giants. By the way, the lawsuits have already started. The Anderson family in New York sued Zillow and First Street, claiming that a false rating caused them to lose money. They bought a house for $1.2 million and sold it for $997,000. Final. So, what now? Real estate agents revolted, and the platforms had to remove these scary numbers from the main display, burying them deeper in the listing. But the data is still accessible, and buyers are finding it. We live in a world where an algorithm can decide that your dry, warm house has a 97% chance of flooding in 15 years, and there's almost nothing you can do about it. So here's the takeaway. If you're buying a house, look at these ratings to knock down the price. If you're selling, pray to the gods of big data that the algorithm doesn't mix up your address. And hey, speaking of scary numbers, have you ever checked your own home's climate score? Go take a look and let me know in the comments. Is your house a safe haven or a future water park according to the algorithms? I'm genuinely curious to read your stories. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the absurdity of the modern housing market, smash that like button and make sure to subscribe. It tells the YouTube algorithm that my video is low risk and worth sharing. See you in the next one.